My name is Walter Hayes. I was 62 that Sunday, and I watched the world turn slow like a lathe that groans before it splits the wood. Father's Day, Frisco, Texas. A table at the heritage table, light slanting through the window, and a sweet barbecue smell sticking to the air. Tyler, my 7-year-old grandson, handed me a shaky drawing with "Best Grandpa" scribbled in green. I slipped it into the pocket of my plaid shirt like a ransom note. The ice was melting in my lemonade, a cold ribbon running down the glass, and I figured the rest of the day would be just that. Small talk, a laugh with the waiter, a story about the time I fixed the school handrail with nothing but a paperclip, duct tape, and stubbornness. The ribs hit the table a little too shiny, and Madison lined her fork with the rim of her plate. Her "this is going to hurt" move. Eric, my son, fiddled with his watch, took a sip of water, cleared his throat. "Dad, we've talked a lot," he started. "We found a really good place for you, Sunridge Oaks. It's professional. You'll be safe around the clock." The meat stalled halfway down. "Safe from what, Eric?" It came out easy, even though everything inside me had locked up. Madison jumped in, wearing her customer service smile. "From yourself, Walter. You've been forgetting things. You left the hose running. It's better for everyone." I looked at Tyler and Ava, locked in on their fries, and knew nobody there was going to defend me. I paid the check, caught my reflection in the card reader, a face I didn't recognize, and still left a full 20% because the waitress had laughed at Tyler's corny jokes. If you've ever heard "go to a home" coming out of your own kid's mouth, stay with me for a couple minutes. What I did in a single day can save your self-respect, and a little over $2,800. You don't even realize you're burning every month for lack of boundaries. Little did they know that before the week was out, that light brick house on the wide street that ends in a cul-de-sac with 3 oaks would be rented for just shy of $3,000 a month, money hitting my account a few minutes before 2 in the afternoon. The contract signed just after 7 that evening with my blue Parker, and my phone would show nearly 20 missed calls in a single night. You won't believe how I turned the tables. But I did. I always woke up a little after 5, even after Helen died and the house got loud with silence. Almost 40 years in a wood shop in Plano, sawdust up my nose, coffee from the French press Helen said made the smell travel better through the kitchen. I built cribs that turned into kids' beds, tables that doubled as a boxing ring and an altar, cabinets that smelled like cornbread on Sunday mornings. My life fit inside one rule: measure twice, cut once. Helen gave me a blue Parker pen on our 20th anniversary. The pen had the weight of a promise. She gave me 2 kids and a simple creed: respect people, say you're sorry when you're wrong, don't wear tight shoes just to look fancy. When Helen was gone, the floor tugged me down a few inches. I fell inside myself. Eric and Madison asked me to stay with them for a while after I had my hip done, the hip that groaned after I lifted a walnut table that really took 2 men and then some. Their place in Frisco, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a backyard that caught the afternoon sun, was bought with my help. I put up the down payment, and on my attorney Linda Cho's advice, I titled the house in the Hayes Family Revocable Trust. Simple. Me as trustee, them as beneficiaries, all in Collin County, no secrets. The kind of respect agreement Helen would have approved. I laid the papers on the table. My Parker brushed the contract, and we took a goofy picture that day, smiling a little awkward, because nobody thinks they'll need letterhead to save their own heart. Living with them had a honeymoon phase. I picked up the kids from school, fixed the doorknob, oiled the squeaky hinges, and made a chili. Tyler said burned his tongue, in the good way. I pulled water with a squeegee through a storm till a little before 11, my back screaming. And Madison brought me a towel and said, "Thanks, Walter." Eyes on her phone. I grabbed the grocery tab once, just over $120, because their card maxed out in line. I paid the electric 1 month, almost $200, because the bill came in weird. I covered the HOA fine when the grass crept past half a foot, $85, because the landscaper didn't show. Eric would say, "You've already done so much for us," eyes sliding away. What he didn't say is what hurt. The guest room became Madison's office. They took the lamp that had been Helen's mother's and parked a printer there. I leaned my cane on the armchair, and suddenly the armchair had no place. I did the dishes my way and got looks, the kind of silence that pinches. A little after 10, I heard Madison in the hallway. He doesn't adapt. The house feels too alive when he's here. Alive cut deeper than a home. I thought of Helen singing at church, blowing out candles with the kids, and did what I'd learned. Breathe through my nose, slow. On Father's Day, after those ribs, Madison chose for me what I'd do with my days. Sunridge Oaks round the clock, she said. Had I left the hose running? I had. Left a pan on the burner till it hissed? Yes. I was human, not incompetent. You're moving at the end of the month, she decided, lining up her silverware like she was marking boundaries on the table. I snagged the check before guilt turned into leverage. I signed, kept the receipt, and I drove back like a man going to fetch a tool most folks don't even know exists. On Monday, a little after 7 in the morning, I was in Linda Cho's office. Gray carpet, diplomas in walnut frames. I pegged the wood at a glance. I told her what happened and what had been happening before, the pennies that turned into pebbles in my shoe. Linda listened with a pen in her hand, body leaning forward. They disrespected you, she said, and you're the trustee. The house is in the trust. They're there as a courtesy. You can take possession and give it another purpose as long as you do it right. Texas Property Code, Chapter 24, 30 days notice. No yelling, no scenes. Paperwork and a clock. I nodded. I knew how to follow a manual. I walked out with a Navy folder and a plan that didn't need revenge. It needed consequences. A little after 10, I stepped into the property manager Linda recommended. Martinez Property Management. Carla Martinez wore a bun as tight as her voice, on the phone with one hand, typing with the other. Frisco area, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, good schools, nice backyard, she ticked off. If I shoot today, I can post by late afternoon. We ask just under $3,000 a month. 12 months. Want to test a hair over 3? I laughed. Let's go fair and fast. Just under 3. Today. Carla clipped her phone at her hip and grabbed the camera. Send me the address, Mr. Hayes. Walter Hayes. By a little before 2, the sun hit the deck I'd leveled with hammer and patience. Carla shot the kitchen with its clean tile light, the living room with the rug I squared myself, the primary with the ceiling fan I installed a little after 10 on a Thursday night because nobody sleeps in Texas heat. Just after 3, the listing went live. Plano Frisco border, 3-bed, 2-bath, lawn care included, available in about a month, just under $3,000 a month. By a little past 4, the inbox already had 4 families. A little after 6, a family from Seattle, relocating with Boeing, offered to drop a deposit right away. Carla kept puffing a strand of hair off her forehead, and I thought of my circular saw I always stored blade down so no one would get cut. Same move, prevent future pain. As I turned the corner from Carla's office, my phone buzzed in my hand. Madison calling. I didn't pick up. Eric. I didn't pick up. Eric, again. A little after 8, I flipped the phone face down and let it rattle on the table like a fish out of water. I counted. 1, 2, 3, 18 missed calls. My heart clenched and let go at the same time. They had time to think, and I had a full 30 days underlined in pink on the notice to vacate. Before the day was over, I left the notice on the kitchen counter, next to a fruit bowl of bananas already going soft. I dropped a certified copy in the mail, and I left a note in my own hand. Son, I love you. This is just to remind us who owns what and who owes whom the respect that goes with it. When you're ready, we'll talk. Madison burned through every caps lock she had. You can't do this. The kids will suffer. You're cruel. I read and breathed. I thought about when she asked me not to make a mess, sanding a little stool for Ava out back. I put the sandpaper away, but I put away some respect for myself that afternoon. Respect doesn't fit in a shoebox. Eric came into my room a little past 11, smelling of beer, shoulders dropped. Dad, we only wanted what's best, he said. So do I, son. What's best for me now is respect. You've got 30 days. I hired a company to make this easy. If you need a reference, I'll write one. The days that followed were an invisible ledger cutting across my chest. I did the math backward, angry and calm at once. The last year added up to just over 120 at the grocery store, almost 200 for electricity, 85 for the HOA when the grass got past half a foot, a little over 2,800 to fix Eric's transmission after it died at an intersection, about 1,200 up front for Ava's orthodontist because the plan didn't cover it, around 640 for the water bill after a hose burst. That one was on me, fine, and I paid it without a peep. A little over 400, and meds until the reimbursement hit that never showed. About $60 for a streaming subscription I never watched because they used my card just for this month. It wasn't the money. It was the invisible pile of small embarrassments that wore me down like fine grit sandpaper. Micro humiliations you can't glue back together with wood glue. And as if that weren't enough, there were the words. You're already forgetful. Better for everyone. Safer this way. Words that mapped an exit with my name on it. I'd installed handrails for neighbors who wanted their grandmothers to stay. Now they were asking me to leave so a guest room could make space for another printer. By Wednesday morning, a little before 8, Carla sent me a schedule tight as a dovetail joint. Walk through on the 30th at 9 sharp. Professional cleaning at 2. Locks changed the day after the deadline. Keys to the reeds a few minutes after 2. Deposit of just under $3,000 plus the first month landing in the trust a few minutes before 2. I smiled. I like people who talk in hours and minutes. I like a clock on the wall. I like things that close on time. I called Sergeant Hall with the Frisco PD and asked for a civil standby on moving day. Not because of threats, because of peace. He called me Mr. Hayes, took it down, and I could almost hear him biting the corner of his lip on the other end, the look of someone holding an opinion. I went to walk at Russell Creek Park, right at 6:30, ducks cutting across the water like nothing had ever been chaos. The breeze smelled like wet earth from the irrigation that clicked on a few minutes before 6, and for 15 minutes I didn't think at all. Think too much, your hand misses the measure. Even the small gestures became mile markers. I picked up Helen's photo in a metal frame. Both of us at Lake Texoma back in '98, her hand on a scarf to tame the wind. I grabbed my hand plane, my square, the tape with a dark blue smear of paint. I left a chair ready for Ava, with Ava lightly carved into the base, and a wooden toy car for Tyler that pinged the baseboard with the sound of a happy childhood. I moved into a ground floor condo in McKinney, a porch facing the lawn where kids threw frisbees, parents in camp chairs saying, "Morning," even to the clouds. I bought a blue couch, beige curtains, a small table right where the morning light fell perfect for reading. And I reopened my book of small repairs at the Plano Community Shop on Wednesdays. That sawdust smell meaning, begin again. The 29th dawned with heat lifting off the asphalt. By 8, the moving truck had pulled up. Sergeant Hall leaned on the fence, hand on his belt buckle, chin nod for hello. Madison cried loud, but it was the cry of someone who'd lost the board, not the kind that feels the loss that counts. Eric hauled boxes marked office and kids, the body of a man trying to be 2. I didn't say much, everybody had said too much that month. When Carla arrived for the key exchange, Madison fired. "You happy now?" I answered what fit. "No. Happiness doesn't live in a family tearing down the middle. But I'm at peace for drawing a line. This is revenge," she spat. "No, this is consequence. Revenge is when you hurt just to hurt. Consequence is gravity doing what it always does." A few minutes before 2, the deposit showed up on the trust statement. A few minutes after 2, Carla handed me a copy of the key for the Reeds, Aaron and Lila and their toddler who laughed at everything. I said, "Welcome," in a voice that didn't shake. Sergeant Hall folded his arms and looked up, like a man remembering clouds always pass. I touched his shoulder. He nodded, and every piece dropped into the slot with its name on it. But that wasn't the end. And I had no idea what came next would land me in the paper, the kind of neighborhood rag that loves a messy domestic story. Yeah, that one. 2 days later, my doorbell rang. Two condo neighbors, Janice and Sloan, stood there with a peach pie and eyes that said, "We read it." Janice held up her phone. A next-door post, republished by the HOA newsletter and the Frisco Community Beat, a site that lives on easy clicks. Elderly man evicts son and grandkids in Frisco. Family alleges trust manipulation. They'd snagged a photo of me from a barbecue and slapped on a snide caption. Someone with anonymous courage wrote, "Somebody needs to protect this man from himself. Dementia is serious." Below that, a distant relative of Madison chimed in, "He's always been controlling. Now the claws are out." The post had a little over 2,000 views, close to 200 comments, and a few dozen angry face likes. One of those number piles that stings worse than a bill. I'm not a brawler in the town square, but I don't take a sucker punch with my hands in my pockets. I called Linda. "I've never seen you on social, Walter," she joked. Then her voice went steady. "Email me everything. Screens with date and time stamps, we'll do it right." I spent the afternoon with the Parker in my hand, not because I needed it to print, but because I needed the weight. I sorted. A copy of the trust deed recorded in Collin County, proof of the down payment transfers, receipts for the past year, the 120-something, the 2,800 and change, the 30-day notice with certified mail signed for, and the civil standby confirmation from Sergeant Hall, case number on file. Linda drafted a short surgical letter. "We're notifying you that statements published on such and such channels are false and defamatory. Attached are official documents that refute them. We request a retraction within 48 hours under the Texas Defamation Mitigation Act. Mr. Hayes acted within the law, Chapter 24 of the Texas Property Code." I signed. Meanwhile, someone sent me a screenshot from the Moms of Purefoy Elementary group. Madison had posted without names, but with enough detail no one could miss the target. "It's basically abuse, y'all. He said he loves us and put us out." I almost replied right there, but I breathed. I called Carla. "Don't get in the mud," she said. "The mud loves us." Even so, a reporter from the Frisco Enterprise reached out. Practiced, neutral voice. "Mr. Hayes, can you share your side?" "I can show documents," I said. "Sides are a choice, documents aren't." We met at the cafe by Mr. Cooper Lake. I brought the Navy folder, the Parker, and the best grandpa drawing I thought about slipping into the stack just to remind myself why I breathe. The reporter, a curly-haired woman named Ruby Torres, listened with both hands around her paper cup. She asked to photograph the Parker. "No need," I said. "Photograph the signature. That's what carries the weight." The story ran 2 days later. When the house belongs to the trust, what the law says and what family forgets. They didn't paint me a saint or a villain. They explained. Linda got a quote. Sergeant Hall wouldn't speak, cops don't, but they confirmed the civil standby through the press office. The Frisco Community Beat posted a tiny correction at the very bottom, like someone sweeping dust under a rug. Update. After reviewing documents, we removed a prior post that did not accurately reflect the facts. And next door never apologizes. But the post vanished. Somebody flagged it. Janice brought me another pie. Apple this time, crust shining with sugar. In the middle of the noise, Eric asked to talk. On a concrete bench under an oak in the late afternoon, he looked like two men, one 8, the other 38. "I did wrong," he said right off. "We pushed you into a corner. I let Mad drive. I'm a grown man, but in the moment I turned into a little boy. I figured you were a weight, and you covered our mortgage for a year without me asking. You put our name in the trust. You treated me like a man. I treated you like a burden. I'm ashamed." I didn't scold, didn't hug. I set my hand on his. A father's hand is a bridge, even when it has to be a wall. "I love you. Love without respect is a curtain without a rod. It falls at the first slam. If you want to repair, I've got 3 conditions," I said. And I breathed deep so each one would land right. Real couples therapy for 3 solid months with receipts and kept appointments. An apology, eye to eye in front of me and the kids. so they learn what responsibility looks like, and a basic money plan, budget, cut the silly spending, no new car for a year, and the promise that the phrase "go to a home" never leaves your house again as a shortcut for handling discomfort. Then I, who am not a bank, go back to being a father, with limits and interest paid in respect. He nodded, eyes wet. I'm in. Madison took longer, posted less, cried more. She showed up 2 months later on a blue Sunday that smelled like laundry on the line, putting her spine back together. Knocked soft with the look of someone who made herself come. I was ashamed, Walter, she said quietly. I treated you like furniture. I shoved you into a corner. Now that I'm in a tight, noisy apartment, with a neighbor thumping the ceiling a little past 11 at night, I get the price of every inch of peace. I'm sorry. I'll say it again in front of the kids. On Apology Day, I wore the blue shirt Helen liked. The condo's picnic table looked good with roast chicken, buttered corn, and an apple pie I made that turned out almost good. Tyler talked about the goal he scored in PE. Ava brought the doll wearing the dress I stitched from scrap cloth. Madison stood, swept her hair behind her ear, the one gesture of hers I'd come to respect, and said, "Grandpa is our family. I said things that hurt. You don't do that to anyone, least of all the person who held us up for so long. I was wrong. I'm sorry." Ava wrinkled her nose. Tyler nodded, solemn as a $12 judge, and I felt a weight slide off inch by inch. At the end of the table, Eric squeezed my hand again. No more posts, no more subtweets, just gravity working, the way it always does. And because life seems to want a receipt even for learning, on the first of the month, a little after 9 in the morning, the rent hit the trust account like a metronome. With part of it, I paid my health plan without a shred of guilt, gave some to the church where Helen sang, bought a used electric piano for just under $400 from a classifieds ad, and taught these hands that have cut a lot of hard wood, to pick out what a wonderful world, trying to play light without losing steadiness. The keys filled the room and pulled in a kind of silence that didn't hurt, a silence that sounded like respect. Cruel, they called me. How can you put your own son out? The loudest accusers had the creak of rusty iron in their sentences, people trapped in the same stories, with boundaryless relatives eating off the plates of the ones who always did their dishes. I didn't defend myself with speeches. I learned to show what I did and swallow what they expected me to shout. Anyone who looked close saw it wasn't revenge. It was that old word we swap for karma when we want to sound mystical, consequence. Eric and Madison planted disregard. They harvested distance. Then they planted an apology. They harvested a set table. I drew a line in concrete with a straight edge and a pencil. I harvested dignity. I didn't jump bonfires. I didn't spend my voice on the internet. I signed papers with a blue pen. I bought a couch that fit my body and let the days fit in my life at the size they should. Some details stuck like a well-set nail, head sunk just right. The digital clock in Linda's office reading a little after 7 in the morning when she told me, "You've got the tools." And I understood paper as a tool too. The dry click of those pricey lawyer pens, announcing a paragraph that shifts a house. My blue ink scratching the contract a little after 7 that evening, drawing my boundary. Sergeant Hall biting his lower lip when Madison's voice climbed, and then arms crossed. Eyes on. The sky. Remembering clouds don't weigh on anyone for long. The smooth roll of my toolbox wheels over the garage concrete. The last time I caught my own scent in that house before it smelled like professional cleaner. The Reeds, Aaron, Lila, and their little girl who laughed at anything, hung Christmas lights in November, straight enough with a tiny crooked smile at the corner, and I laughed to myself in the car, slow, thinking how my lines always came out a little like that, my way, and how much life forgives when you do what's right, not what's perfect. Sometimes in the afternoon I'd cruise down the street with the Three Oaks and see their little girl tugging a doll stroller along the sidewalk. The stroller made a loose wheel rattle that made my fingers itch to tighten a screw. I didn't stop. That story didn't need my hands anymore. On the next Father's Day, the phone rang around 8. Eric. "Dad, can we swing by with the kids? We'll bring donuts." You can. They showed up with a grease-kissed box of joy. Tyler brought an improved best grandpa drawing, less shaky. Ava asked to play a song on my electric piano that doesn't exist and was beautiful anyway. We ate blueberry donuts with coffee, and I felt something only the truly stubborn feel after a long life. The peace of someone who gave up a little to keep what mattered. I raised a glass of iced tea at the end of that day, sitting on my condo porch, watching the lawn turn to shade and toasted low for me alone to hear. I toasted Helen, who taught me to sign my own fate with a steady hand. I toasted boundaries that aren't walls, they're mile markers. Without them, everyone gets lost. With them, even the ones who strayed find their way back. If someone asked why I signed the lease on my son's house, I'd say it the same way, eyes up. Because I deserve to be treated like family, not an obligation. Because the house I bought wasn't meant to pull me out of my life. It was meant to give them a shot at building theirs the right way. They chose another path. I just put gravity back where it belonged. And yes, it all landed the way it sounded like exaggeration at the start. The place rented in under a day. The rate settled at just under $3,000 a month. And that night my phone showed nearly 20 missed calls. Sometimes that's what respect costs up front. Silence, letterhead, and the nerve to sign your own fate with a blue pen. Little did I know that once the ink dried, the family would still fit at the same table. With one difference. The table had reinforced legs, and anyone who wanted a seat had to take their hat off first. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about the story in the comments. See you in the next one.